Welcome to Ghoul Talk.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris A. and welcome to Ghoul Talk. Ghoul Talk is a place where we can debunk, demystify some politically loaded cliches, talking points, vocabulary. And today we're going to be talking about TERFs. So first let's define TERF. TERF stands for trans-exclusionary radical feminist. So TERFs are radical feminists who exclude transgender individuals from their feminism. And the way it works academically or rationally or logically is basically TERFs deny the reality of gender. So basically TERFs insist that trans women are not women and that trans men are women, which of course is a denial of the reality of gender and transgender individuals and identities. And probably the most generous way to put it is that TERFs believe that a person's gender is determined entirely by their biological sex, which of course we know is not the case. And the reason I want to talk about TERFs is because we're seeing them gain some political influence. There is a much bigger TERF community in the UK, to the point that a lot of people on the left will actually refer to the UK as TERF Island. And a lot of those TERF groups and nonprofits are working with groups and nonprofits in the United States to introduce legislation such as discriminating against transgender individuals in public restrooms or in sports. What's interesting to me is because the Overton window, which is the acceptable political discourse in a culture or a nation, because the Overton window shifts, generally speaking, to the left and continues to do so, what we've got are radical feminists, people who would be considered far left, say in the 90s, are now allied with conservatives and Republicans because they share a goal. And that goal is discrimination against trans individuals. Now, we can talk about why they share that goal. I don't think it's particularly important, but it's very interesting to see very far-right conservatives allying themselves with people who call themselves radical feminists. A lot of the TERF drive is for women-only spaces, and I think that's a fine goal. The problem is, due to their belief that trans women are not women, these women-only spaces, such as public restrooms or sports teams, these women-only spaces have to exclude transgender women. Obviously, that's not a good thing. I think, of course, if we go to the bathroom thing, the TERF idea of people with vaginas go in one bathroom, people with penises go in another bathroom, what you're doing is you're actually creating co-ed bathrooms because you have cisgender women sharing a bathroom with transgender men and cisgender men sharing a bathroom with transgender women. And if you're a man who's in a bathroom and a trans woman comes in, who by all accounts you wouldn't know whether she was trans or cisgender, that's probably a lot more uncomfortable than a transgender man coming in who you wouldn't be able to tell if they're cis or trans. So again, the TERF ideology is kind of self-defeating because when you're creating these women-only spaces and you're defining women by people with vaginas, you're actually allowing trans men in with the women. So what you end up with, of course, is because TERFs do not particularly care for transgender people. In fact, they would deny that transgender people are even transgender. What you end up with is a total and complete shutout of any trans people in any women's spaces. And that's a very dangerous thing. It may seem silly to say, like, we need to use this bathroom. But when you think about it, the bathroom is something that everyone needs. And so if you go to a place and you are not allowed to use their bathroom, you're going to spend less time, less money in that place. And probably you're going to feel unwelcome. Bathrooms historically, at least in the United States, have been used as a way to keep certain types of people out of public spaces. So, maybe in the 40s or 50s, a lot of office buildings would have only had men's rooms. So if a woman came to visit, it would have been a great inconvenience to have to use the bathroom because they would have had to go to a different building. So it had the effect of keeping women out of business spaces. And then, of course, you've got, racial segregation in bathrooms. If you had a whites-only bathroom, that's going to prevent black people from coming in. Even if black people are allowed to come to your business, if they have nowhere to go to the bathroom, they're going to feel unwelcome. And now we're seeing it with trans individuals. If a trans woman is not allowed in the women's bathroom, they probably also don't want to use the men's bathroom, so they don't really have a bathroom to use. So it's just another way of keeping certain types of people out of public spaces. And obviously, that has always been a bad thing, and this is no different. This instance is no different. So a lot of trans-exclusionary radical feminists would claim that TERF is a slur, or at least TERF is an inaccurate representation of their beliefs. And a lot of times the argument is that we don't exclude trans people because by our beliefs, trans men are actually women, and so we include trans men in our feminism. Of course, that's kind of just a deflection of saying, no, I'm not transphobic because I don't believe that trans men are men. You see how that doesn't really fix the problem? I think we can have a discussion about whether or not TERF is a slur. I tend to think it's not because it's pretty descriptive. It describes, a feminist who is radical in their feminism, and part of the radical nature of their feminism is that they reject the reality of gender. And by doing so, they exclude trans people from their radical feminism. So I think it's a fine term to use. Maybe don't use it to someone's face because that could shut down a conversation. When talking about public figures like J.K. Rowling, like the Women's Liberation Front, like these groups, I think it's fair to call them TERFs because that is what they are. Unless we were having a conversation, and then you might want to be more diplomatic. But that doesn't mean it's inaccurate. TERF is a very specific description that fits a lot of folks, unfortunately. There is kind of a conflation these days of TERF and transphobe to the point where TERF is kind of just become shorthand for anyone who doesn't like trans people. I think we should avoid that because TERF, again, describes a specific set of beliefs. I would say that TERFs are a subset of transphobe. All TERFs are transphobes, but not all transphobes are TERFs. Because a lot of transphobes wouldn't call themselves feminists at all. So again, I've talked about this in the past. We're seeing a big push to keep transgender individuals out of sports, and that's a bad thing. It's discrimination. The science is complex. It's less so when it comes to younger people. But at the end of the day, my take on it is sports are sports. There's always going to be someone bigger and stronger and better than you. And if that's because they were naturally born producing more testosterone, or if that means, they work more at the gym, there's always going to be an unfair advantage. That's the nature of sports. So I think it's a bad idea to discriminate. I know that's brave of me to say, but do your part, find out what your state is doing, because a lot of this stuff is happening at the state level. So find out if your state is considering a discrimination bill against transgender individuals in sports. And if they are, speak up. Call your state legislature. Let your voice be heard. Thanks for watching. This has been Ghoul Talk with Chris A. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like and comment. If you like this kind of video, feel free to give me a subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It helps a lot when people share this on their Discords or on certain subreddits that I may not know about. Also, if you want, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.